Good afternoon, everyone. All right, we've got a VE in today. Now, this thing come in for a no start, had a 5-volt reference sensor, 5-volt circuit 2, no crank, no start whatsoever, and the workshop that's worked on this previously, they noted that they had no 5 volts at one of the APP pins. Now, as you can see, it's running. This thing kicked my ass a little bit. It's been a good couple of hours, but I'll show you how we ended up figuring it out and what's going on. So, as you'll see, only code we've got left is engine coolant temp, which doesn't matter. What I started to do here, right, was I figured that something was shorting this 5-volt ref sensor circuit. Now, your ECU, which looks like that, has 2 pins, X1 and X2, X2 being grey. The APP 5 volts are all on X1, almost everything else is on X2. So I started going around checking for any sort of shorts on our 5-volt reference sensor circuit. Now, we had no 5-volt out to coils, normal, because it wasn't running. MAF good, MAP good, coolant temp good, something else as well in here was good. So everything looked good engine wise. When we went to the inside of the car, we had no 5 volts to our APP2, which is a white and black wire, which you'll see here. So I've scribbled everything off that's been checked. White and black wire, no 5-volt output. Now, from there, I pinned the ECU out on the bench, just power ground booted it. I did it with both ECUs, and it had a 5-volt output on the new replacement, which is in there. So then we sort of continued on going, okay, something's definitely shorting it down. Now, the big thing for this that sort of helped me was, probably shouldn't do this, but I left X2, this grey connector, unplugged, just plugged in X1, which has all the powers and grounds for the ECU anyway. Car on, we still had no 5-volt output. Now, I know on the bench with the powers and grounds pinned out, we're good. So that means that there was something on X1 shorting that 5-volt ref sensor circuit. So if we go over to this is not this diagram, this one, everything on that's on X2. On this one, you do have a fuel pump. So there's a fuel pump level sender, the 5-volt feed for all that is on that X1 connector. I wasn't going to go there. That was the last thing I was going to check, was going to get to, so ignore that. But the last diagram we've got has a brake booster, clutch switch, oil pressure as well, oil level as well. And that is where we found our problem. So before I went down to the oil level sensor, I went to the clutch switch, 5 volts there was good. So ended up going to the brake booster sensor, which now, in hindsight, obviously, I think I should have just unplugged that right at the start. If you have a look down in there, it looks pretty crap. So as soon as I unplugged that, went and checked my APP reference, and I had 5 volts back there. So what's happening is that this brake booster switch 5-volt ref is shorting through the control unit, so through the engine ECU internally, and pulling down that 5-volt reference feed for the APP and causing the ref 2 voltage low. So that is our problem. This car's going to need a new brake pressure switch, brake booster pressure sensor, and that'll be job done. Was a nightmare, not a too bad job, but it was a bit of a nightmare. It took a couple of hours, and kind of the big hit for me with figuring that out was leaving one connector unplugged and basically removing that whole X2 side to make sure nothing on X2, that grey connector, was shorting it down. It was definitely something on the next one, and then from there we can just remove everything else and go, okay, it's got to be one of these 3 or a harness issue. So that's where we went. If that didn't work, if I unplugged that and that didn't work, what I would have done was checked for a short to ground on the harness side, but luckily didn't have to go that far. She's done.